What's up, World Wide Web? E-Daddy, your angry guy. Back here at the Angry Guy Production Studios to continue our season-long look at the Masters of the Universe Origins figures. Now, so far we've taken a look at the Sky Sled without Prince Adam, just the Sky Sled, and took a look at Battle Cat. So keeping in with the whole Wave 1 thing here, figured, alright, let's start taking a look at the figures, and let's start out with old Bonehead himself. And I am talking about, you know who. Alright, so as we're in our 4th season, I know before and end of season 2, we did the Skeletor event. We talked about the whole backstory of Skeletor. We looked at figures then. However, we don't have to do all that now, and I'm not doing that anymore. What we're going to do is, as we all know, looking at these figures, comparing them to previous iterations that we've gotten before. And we've had a lot of different versions of Skeletor, whether it be the regular one, Battle Armor, Terror Claws, Dragon Blaster. I think it pretty much covers them all. I know I'm missing some. Oh, the Laser Light Skeletor. And we've had a lot of different variations to Bonehead over the years. Like I said, we've had some good ones, we've had some bad ones. So let's take a look. We'll start out with the box that it came in and go from there. So that being said, let's start with the box work. Alright, so we started getting the Origins figures. Right off the bat, they kicked it off with making it look like the same packaging that we got back in the 80s. Except the fact we got the whole modern retro play sticker or burst on it. We got this new for 20, and I know I'm pointing at the wrong side. But overall, I mean, we got, excellent looking case for it. On the back, they provided some new awesome artwork for it. Did the same thing as far as the figures go, being on the back of them, how it operated and everything. So, all in all, it was a good, good start for the Origins line to bring back the original packaging and, to include a mini comic with them. However, if you've seen the mini comic in this one, you've seen it for every figure that came out in Wave 1. That's one of the things I didn't care for, is when we got the vintage figures back in the day, is a different comic for each figure. Now, we've got the same comic for each wave. So, that was the one downside. But other than that, you couldn't really go wrong with the packaging. I've seen worse on some of these, but luckily this wasn't too bad. Now, for any of us that went hunting for these things, Walmart was a dick about this, because it seemed like a lot of figures, if you didn't get them out of the cardboard shipper box that Mattel sent them to Walmart in, if you can get them straight out of there, I think their stocking guys went through at night and just fucking drop kicked those damn boxes, because you had the hardest time trying to find a very minty looking card back for these things. And it really sucks, because a lot of us who go through and collect would like to keep them looking real nice. I went through, I was stalking Walmart every day. Till these things finally showed up. Grabbed as many as I could, bailed my ass out the door. And believe it or not, I didn't sell a single one. I traded some with a buddy because he was not having any luck finding where he was at. So he's gotten some mini fresh ones. But yeah, you cannot go wrong with the card, with the artwork, with the design. Bring back the vintage design. Awesome. All right, so go through, get the figure out, pop the little plastic bands off of him, be able to get him out of there. All right, so right now off the bat, you've got the same, almost like the same design for it, except we've got more articulation. They did go with a different sword design for these, which I think is what they wanted to go through and do with the original vintage, but we'll get more of that later. Also did provide the Havoc staff with him. Like I said, you've got the articulation. Then you got the shoulders and arms and everything. It moves up and down, side to side, everything else. The elbows bend, wrist turn on both. You can still turn them. You don't have that power punch action like we did back in the 80s, but we've got plenty of articulation in the legs, knees, ankles, calves, which was definitely an upgrade for them. Now, the one thing I know a lot of people complained about, and I've heard people say, oh, you can take the head off, heat it up, close it. I did not care for the mouth being wide open like that. But at the same time, I don't really want to go through, screw the head up, so I haven't went through and heated any of these up to go through and close it. Not yet. One thing I did like about these Origins figures, I'll say it now so I ain't got to say it one of these other episodes, and hopefully I don't say it in the rest of them when we come to the figures, is how we can go through and we can take them apart, turn them into some badass customs. But all in all, like I said, the face, I'd have much rather had something with the whole closed mouth like we've been accustomed to getting all these years, other than the look we get from him. Armor wise, it's a little bit flimsier, but hopefully it'll last longer and everything than what the vintage did. So I mean, all in all, not too bad. Don't really care for the fucking head. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at compared to what we've gotten before. So we've done talked about what we liked about this, what we didn't like. You compare it up to the vintage one. Okay, so you've got the sword. Let's just start with that right off the bat. Get that out of the way. You can definitely see a difference in the two swords. My guess is Mattel would probably would have loved to have done something like this back in the day. Probably just didn't have the ability to do it, so we got this, which is fine. Honestly, I don't really see too much of a difference there. They are just a little bit smaller, more rounded for the tips compared to the Origins. It's actually pointed. The Havoc staffs on these, damn near identical. The Origins one is a little thicker in the staff, so you ain't got that flexibility like we did with the vintage. You still have a little bit of bendness, but not a whole lot. All in all, they look like they're just about out of the same mold, to be honest with you. Get to the figures. Like I said, we've got a lot more articulation with the Origins, but we still got the same badass look. Skeletor, you know, as far as the armor goes, same kind of armor, everything. And on the heads on these, I'm sorry, the vintage one's head looks a lot better than the Origins one, only because it honestly looks a lot more, how do I want to say it, a little bit more menacing looking than what the Origins did. So, if we could switch some of this up, I'd have been happy, but on this one, vintage is still going to win over the Origins in my eyes. But it's close, just due to the fact that we got the articulation on this one, but we got a better head and everything on this one. Alright, so we'll take a look at Super 7's attempt at a vintage style figure. Right off bat, you know, a lot of us didn't care for too much for the color. Did love the head. Did love how menacing it looked. Now I know they tried to make these look more like the Filmation counterparts. Swords weren't too bad. Yeah, they had that rounded tip like the vintage figures did. Now the only thing that sucked is, okay, so you get the Havoc staff here, which, like I said, they were looking at trying to keep it to vintage look. It does look like it. However, you cannot, for the life of anything, get it to go through and stay in. So, it was a good attempt by Super 7, but it failed so much. So, hands down, our Origins is going to win this one. By the time he gets a win. Alright, I had to throw these in. I couldn't help myself. This one and the next one. The little subject Skeletors. You know, yeah, it's cool. I mean, they had a couple little articulation points. Definitely a lot better face than the Origins thing we got. You know, at least with him, we also got the axe. You had jaw movement. You couldn't really go wrong there. Not really at all, but still, it's Origins. Alright, and I had to throw this little dude in there too. Couldn't help myself. You know, one of the little Motu minis. Honestly, face-wise, still looked a little bit better than the Origins one, alright? They do look kind of goofy looking, but not too bad, I guess. Alright, now 2002, the 2000X figures. You know, compare them up. Yeah, you had a lot more detail and everything. You didn't really have any serious points of articulation. You had the legs moved. You had the little thing in the back where you could go through and push on them. I get to do it right here. You know, get the arm to move. Definitely had a better looking head sculpt. But, you know, we still had a lot more articulation. I know they could do it in 02. Still got a lot of figures from 02 that had articulation. So, why they couldn't do it, don't know. But, definitely a more badass looking Havoc staff. Sword without doubt. But, like I said, considering the fact they were keeping these to vintage. Alright, classics time. Now, there's two territories on this one. Considering the fact they were trying to make these also look kind of, have the vintage look, but bring them up to scale. This is where, you know, Mattel, they went through, they had the pieces go through and do the articulation. They could have really done the boots a little bit different. You know, all in all, you know, we had a Skeletor that looked close to what the the vintage one did. A lot better than this dude. Definitely a lot of updates. So I mean, whenever they shrunk it back down to go with vintage style, there was still a lot of stuff they were able to do with them. So this right here was a great success as far as how it looked and everything. In order to bring it down to this, I just wish they'd use this head sculpt instead of that. All right, Super 7 time again. Super 7, actually, they had all the molds and stuff. Were able to fix some of the molding or mold issues with that Mattel had in order to go through and kind of spice up their Ultimate Skeletor, which came with a variety of heads. I'm always particular to the Alcala head. Honestly, there ain't much difference between this one and the Mattel Classics one. So, but definitely we had the head sculpts available to do this for him. Go with it as it is. Alright, so now to that favorite time or part of the show where price point wise, $14.96, $14.99 depending on where you get them, whether it be Walmart or Target. Seems to be the two places I'm finding them at. Actually ain't bad for these. Yeah, they probably could have done more with the, and still made them right around the $15 marker. So I'm going to be kind of interested to see if they do a deluxe edition of Skeletor somewhere in the future. But I mean, honestly, the price point ain't too bad. We've seen worse for with less. Hell, considering the fact that you get those little loyal subjects figures and they were like $10 at the time. So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I think they could have given us a little bit more and still kept it in the $15 price range, to be honest with you. Alright, so overall thoughts is this was a great reintroduction to the Master Universe line, to bring them back to retail, to get a lot of us older collectors who went through and we had the Masters Universe vintage toys as kids, or even the ones that went through, some of the people that grew up, younger than what I am and what probably a lot of my demographic is, grew up and got the 2002 edition figures, 2000X figures, if you want to call them that. But definitely a great way to, bring them back out with the whole vintage style. Nice to see, where we can go through them. We can take them apart. We can go through and we can change them up. We can go through and we can make our own custom figures however we like. I do like the fact that some of the heads from the Classics figures do fit on those figures, along with some of the body armor for the Classics figures will fit on Origins. Tell you right now, I took a Skeletor figure, changed some stuff around, recolored the body and everything, put the Classics Web Store armor on him, along with the Web Store head, and it looks fine. Came out looking pretty good. So, that was the nice part about with these figures, is being able to make them to where they can do, we can make different things with them. And it was great from a standpoint, it was pretty good. So, can't really argue there. Alright, so that was it. That was our review of the Origin Skeletor. If I wanted to do it, I would honestly go, this is definitely a 4 out of 5 For me, the only thing that kills it is the damn head sculpt with that open mouth. I wasn't a big fan of it. Um, I know they could have given us a closed mouth edition. We've seen Scareglow at this point. We'll get to him later on in the season. But, it is what it is. But with that being said, I'm E-Daddy, your angry guy. And everybody, keep looking for these figures. Keep buying them. Save them for later on down the road. Buy them for your kids. That's why I have loose ones. I've got carded ones still, for my boys. For them to do with whatever they want to when they get older. Loose ones to play with now if they want to mess with them. More we buy stuff up, the more product they'll keep putting out, newer stuff. And to all the groups out there that watch this, keep up with the sharing, but don't go overboard on, trying to making deals. I've got buddies that go through and they're looking for figures. If I find them, I'll get them back to them for, the price I paid for them plus the shipping. Which all in all, you ship one figure, time you figure in the price and everything, it's about $25. I'm not making anything off of it. I don't think anybody inside the group should either, just because of the fact we're trying to help each other out. So, and start seeing where wave 4 of these Origins figures are hitting the shelf. So I'm looking forward to those showing up so I can go through, get a couple sets, one hang on the wall, one to open up, so way I can put them on here live on the show. So, anyways, with that being said, I'm E-Daddy, your angry guy, and until next time, keep on collecting, so way the lines never die. Till next time.